I want to I want to let you know that if you're on, it's sort of like when you get on a plane ride and you want to make sure you're on the right plane, um, or the right airline. So I just want you to know that this is session one for Career Readiness Showcase, School Counselor System of Success. And before we even get started, I just want to give you all a shout out to say thank you for all the great work that you do day in and day out, and that we really do appreciate you. And today we feel that this is really, really important because it's a path for every student. Every Connecticut student deserves to believe in their ability to fulfill their career ambition. And we have been working really hard to ensure that every student from the earliest grades through post-secondary education has a clear vision and future career goals. And sometimes we have to like work with our students, obviously, to design that roadmap for them. And we want them to make sure that not only are they, through our school counseling framework, are getting their career goals and domains met through classroom, but real world experiences. And one of the things that I really want us to talk about today, which Carol has graciously decided to do this for us, so I so appreciate her, which we will do introductions in a second. But the great thing about this is it's about collaboration and what our interest groups are. So we're talking about government agencies, we're talking about families, we're talking about business and industry, K through 12 education, higher education, workforce development, labor market, because as you know, our labor market is very flexible right now. And then also including community organizations. So Carol has a wide span of what she's actually investing in. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to take a moment for everyone here at the team to actually introduce themselves. And Carol, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Carol Wilshire-Toth, and I am the Education Administrator at Norwalk Public Schools for School Counseling and Workforce Development. I have the great privilege of working with 46 school counselors as their district leader from kindergarten to 12th grade, and we also have two college and career specialist counselors embedded in our high schools as well. So thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. We really look forward to the conversation.
And Carol, do you want to introduce your colleague as well?
I'd also like to introduce today Fabiola Esteves Artiles, and she is one of our original K to 5 counselors that joined the team. We brought in K to 5 counselors about 4 or 5 years ago to the team, and she is one of our original counselors in the elementary school. So thank you, Fabi, for joining us today as well.
Thank you.
Good
And if,
morning. It's a pleasure.
oh,
And
yes.
I'm sorry, there is a fire drill, so I'm gonna go away.
And if you do not know who I am Kim Traverso. I'm at the State Department of Education in the Division of Student Support Services, and I oversee, one of my duties is to oversee school counseling and social emotional development. So next slide. And also, if you don't mind putting in the chat just your name and then what school you're from, that would be very helpful for us to gauge. And let us know if you're high school, middle school, or elementary school. That will also be very helpful. So opening remarks, when Carol and I talked about this, I was wondering, like, how do you actually have opening remarks regarding career readiness and workforce development? And really, what I want to think about with this virtual series is highlighting innovation and thinking outside of our box and working smarter, not harder. And that's really what I'm hoping that you will get from this today. But more importantly, we want to make sure that this is not another thing that you have to do, but how it aligns with the work that you already do within the comprehensive school counseling framework, and particularly the career domain. So this series really will be examining the relationship and how to unite, again, educators, administrators, and community providers, and also our families. But moreover, it's really about how do we help prepare our kids for college, career, and life. Um, we have a lot of things that are going on around career pathways, credentials, dual enrollment. So there's so much information out there. And so we want to make sure that you have an idea, a vision of what this actually really looks like in practice. And so that's what these virtual sessions are really about today. We want you to be able to walk away with enhancing your industry partnerships and building sustainable systems. Again, not doing other things, but doing things that are really directly impacting school counseling work so that every student is successful and has a career pathway. And the next slide. And we didn't just make this up. So back in 2023, we had updated our board strategic plan. And if you look at this and just take a moment to review it, you're going to see four different sections here. And the one that's on the left-hand side that says ensuring safe and healthy learning environments, that's school counseling all the way. It actually addresses our domains. And then if you look on the right-hand side at the bottom where it says create multiple career pathways, that's us as well. Now, obviously, we can't do it alone. It takes a village, as they say, to actually be able to implement that well. And we're going to really talk about how to actually take this heavy lift and be able to have more folks work with you so that you're not carrying the load on your own. And next slide. So our meeting objective today is really to examine career readiness and workforce development in Tier 1. We will be going through all tiers through this series, but as you know, Tier 1 is all students. So it looks at promotion, it looks at preventative, and it also looks at early intervention, but it also is data driven. And so the reflection pieces, the building out the systems, understanding data and practices for improving students' outcomes academically, social, emotionally, and career. And next slide. So let's just talk about the agenda. So first, Carol's really going to concentrate on the alignment to the Connecticut School Counseling Framework. Secondly, we're going to really look at career readiness, workforce development in Tier 1. And we're looking at delivery of services. So we're looking at direct and indirect. Again, going back to what I said earlier. And also we have a wealth of resources for you. And she will be walking you through that so that, again, when you walk away today, you will take those resources with you. And also, Carol has graciously also volunteered to provide her services. So if you need technical assistance or if you need a little bit of coaching, she will offer that to you as well. And lastly, we're going to have some questions, a Q&A session, and then of course closing, and reminding you that April 1st is our next session. And I'm going to turn it over to Carol.
Thank you so much. One of the things I wanted to start out with today as we immerse ourselves in Tier 1 is a little bit of my personal journey. I have been a former school counselor over my career for pre-K all the way to 12th grade, and I made a lot of commitments to myself during my journey. And one of those commitments were that if I were in a leadership role for the school counseling team and district, that there are certain systems and implementations that I felt so passionately about as a school counselor that I wanted to implement. And what I'd like to share as we get started is that you can implement these things in your school. You can implement them in your particular grade bands. And so that's the exciting part of today's session in Tier 1 is that this is implementation for all, as we said. So as we get started, I want you to think about what is one area your data is suggesting for you to explore, because oftentimes we can become overwhelmed or say, where do we start? Well, let's start with the data because the data will tell us oftentimes what the needs are for our students. We'd like you to think about one takeaway from today's session that you can replicate within your school or your district in any way, because you don't have to recreate the wheel. We can share these resources with you. While this is the Norwalk story, this is all of our stories. And so I did want to share a little bit about our district. So you had some information. We are a mid-sized urban district of about 11,500 students with 52 spoken languages. Which is really lovely. We have 46 kindergarten, 12 school counselors, 2 college and career specialists, as I had mentioned, and that's who we are. But knowing that what we're talking about today can absolutely be replicated in any classroom, in any school, in any district. I wanted to start off by really calling out our K-12 school counseling framework, which I am sure that you are all familiar with. This is our guidance from the state that really leads us and really helps us pave the way for how we can use our data and what moves we can make to create programming and implementation for our students and our families as well. One of the things I wanted to share was that on page 6, this is what our Tier 1 today has been built from, as you'll see on page 6, our Tier 1, to give you a frame of reference. And we know that as school counselors, we work in the developmental guidance curriculum development in the academic, career, and the SEL domains. So we have academic, social emotional learning, and our career domains. For our purposes at Norwalk Public Schools, we use our career domain through our workforce development programming, and that's how we are able to marry the two. So what I wanted to share and what you're seeing here is you are seeing some of our school counselors who over the summer were able to form and facilitate school counselor committees, which is really great work. Our school counselors get to collaborate with one another, K to 12, which is exciting. Our school counselors come together and we write curriculum. And we first started with kindergarten curriculum in the career domain because our school counseling framework gives us our standards and our objectives. And so from that, that was our guide. And the reason why we chose kindergarten is because we were starting 4 years ago to develop a workforce development ecosystem. So we knew that there would be a natural ecosystem occurring at the high school. We really wanted to start with our kindergarten students. So we currently, over the last 4 years, have implemented kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade curriculum written by our school counselors for our school counselors. So I wanted to show you some photos of them here and some of the work that we've done over the summer. I wanted to take a pause there just very briefly to see if anything was coming top of mind for anybody, any questions about this particular curriculum writing as I dive deeper into it. Okay, so before I get into the actual deeper dive of the curriculum writing, I was going to ask Fabiola, our school counselor K to 5, who actually was part of the curriculum writing for K1, 2, and 3 over the past many years, to give us her take on what it was like as a school counselor to write her own school counselor curriculum for workforce development.
Thank you, Carol. To me, it was a pleasure to do that. I really enjoy collaborating with other school counselors. We don't always get the chance to collaborate and talk about our work and then how we can best deliver the workforce development curriculum to the students. Also, there is a lot of SELs as a counselor. There's a lot of SELs curriculum written out there. And when it comes to workforce development, even though I work for K through 5, and that might sound like, oh my goodness, they're too young, it's too early for that. It's actually great because the way I explain it to parents and everyone else is that we bring awareness. It starts with kindergarten, just letting them know that there's options out there. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of careers that they might heard of, but they're not very familiar with what it takes to be a nurse, what it takes to be a doctor, and how there's just different levels. So honestly, it has been amazing to work in the curriculum development part, because normally we would take something from the internet or from somewhere else, but knowing that your populations and what exactly with their mentality and where they at, what can you deliver that it will work, and then providing also the worksheet, because one of the things I don't know about a lot of counselors that we struggle is finding out worksheets that were appropriate with the lesson and making sure the delivery was appropriate for the grade level. So I have to say all of that was truly amazing for me. And then it was the first time for me to be part of curriculum writing. So it was an eye-opening too when it comes to like learning what we need to think about of what are the themes of the lesson also. What were the opinions of other counselors too? Because then now we're working from K through 12. We are using the same language all across. So it starts in elementary school, and then when I go to middle school, it's like, oh, I learned that back when I was at the school. I kind of know a little bit, and then it continues. So I have to say it was a really great pleasure to do that.
Thank you so much, Fabi. And one of the things I'd like to do now is to show you just an overview. This is just basically our front page of our K to 3 curriculum. So when you look here at the visual that you have, you will see in the bottom all of the different lessons that are included with this particular set of curriculum that has been written. And one of the things that we've done over the years is we're really working on Portrait of a Graduate. So we've infused our Portrait of a Graduate competencies into our curriculum writing. And we've also extended our curriculum writing as well into social emotional learning. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but I wanted to share with you what that looks like. For workforce development, again, using the career domain. And what I can say is if you don't have this particular written curriculum for your counselors, by your counselors, this is something that you're able to work on now. You can assemble the counselors together, your colleagues, and you can start writing systematized lessons and share with one another so that there is really nice consistency. We have 13 elementary schools. When students move from school to school, they pick up where they left off because we also have a pacing calendar. So let me go into the workforce development second grade lesson 1 sample. This is the sample of one of our lessons that will be opening up for you now. And you will see at the top, we have our career domain, standard C1, lesson 1. We have our standard identified and written here as per our Connecticut Counseling Framework document and guide. And as we scroll down, you will see that this is an absolute one-stop shop roadmap for all school counselors. The school counselors have this in 2 ways. They have it in a binder created for them. So for those of us who love that old school binder, they can use the binder. In it, they're able to make copies for their students and for their push-in developmental guidance lessons. But also they receive this an electronic copy because they will put it up on the screen when they're in the classroom. And all of the links to the lessons are completely embedded. So it's important to show you that we have our materials listed, what you'll need for the lesson, the title of our lesson as decided by our school counselors, and our objective. So identify likes and dislikes, hobbies and leisure activities. Now, this is our objective as per the state. And so this is how we follow our standards and objectives and implement for tier 1. And you'll see everything is broken out by time and actual step by step. And so that's been great feedback from the school counselors that the timing of it, the step by step, and having this one-stop shop has been tremendously helpful for them to implement that within the classroom. So imagine that they have a binder that has their different grade levels in it. For us, K1, 2, and 3 for workforce development. And then also for us in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th for social emotional learning. The way we stay consistent and on pace is there is a pacing calendar that I create for the curriculum for the team, and you'll see the pacing calendar. And so, from a tier one perspective, serving all students, they push in once a month with one lesson for each of their grade levels. And I'm showing today K1, 2, and 3. It's the same for 6th, 7th, and 8th for social emotional learning as well. All of these resources you will have at your fingertips as well at the end of the session. So please feel free to take a deeper dive. Wanted to show you very briefly our social emotional learning curriculum. This is for grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. And much in the same way, we can see the different areas at the bottom that they dive into. They also have a pacing calendar. They receive everything electronically and also in a binder as well. We also take counselor feedback very seriously. So whenever we have feedback on particular curriculum writing, we might go back and change something that's not working. We will make edits, and we have actually changed our timing of the lessons in terms of the overall time, and aligned it with some attention span research to ensure that they're spending the right amount of time in tier one in the classrooms that are successful for the students. I wanted to take a brief pause there and see if anything else if anything came to anyone top of mind, any questions about the curriculum writing or our process, maybe something you're thinking about doing, because you can write in social emotional K to 12, you can do career domain, which is workforce development K to 12, or you could do academic K to 12. Anything coming to mind for anybody?
Carol, you can also talk about the high school. Someone just put it in the chat. Is there a high school curriculum? Yes, yes, there is. So can you talk a little bit about that? We were just using these samples because we find that it's really hard for folks to think about career development or the career domain in early ages. So that's why we were using those samples. But she has it K through 12. But go ahead, Carol.
Yes, great question. And so the framework is really set up that we can do our curriculum writing in the summer for high school. A great natural organic place for this to live is at high school advisories. You may have a house period or an advisory period. We all have different names for that time in the classroom. And so, yes, we can absolutely write curriculum for the high school. In our high schools, we have 4 high schools in Norwalk. We are very heavy on post-secondary planning. So we have a lot of tier one push in around post-secondary planning, really looking to what their post-secondary plans are going to be starting in 9th grade.
Hey, Carol, you have one other question in the chat. I would love to see your calendar. How frequently are you pushing in and delivering the lessons you highlighted? And thank you for the resources.
Great question. So I'm just going to pull up, this is the workforce development pacing calendar, K1, 2, and 3. Our counselors push in tier one monthly in those grades, and also in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for social emotional learning. They go in once a month. And so that is the cadence that we have based on the current grade levels that we have. And something to note is our counselors in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade loop with their students and families. And so you can have a 6th grade, obviously the 6th grade counselor has all the 6th graders, and 7th grade has 7 and 8 and so on. And so they loop establishing and building those relationships as they go. And one of the biggest points of feedback from the school counselors is that this has been tremendous in relationship building. That not only are they seeing students in their office in tier 2 and in groups and in other venues, but when they go in consistently once a month for their grade levels, that it's really relationship building.
Carol, you have a second question. Is the delivery and advisory done by the advisors or counselors?
That's a great question. At the high school, our post-secondary planning delivery is done by our school counselors.
And Carol, maybe we can also put in there for the pacing calendar, an example of high school for folks as well in our resources.
Okay, sounds good. And so this is just bringing to light some of the resources that we talked about, and what it looks like, if you were to create these particular lessons in your own school.
And Carol, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
The lessons from the pacing guide in K to 2, are they all workforce career focused, or I'm sorry, or do you do the other domains as well?
That's a great question. We have written K1, 2, and 3 specifically from the career domain. However, we know that whether we've written career domain, academic, or SEL, we know it's all SEL infused. So while I will tell you that, yes, we've written specifically from the state guidance of the career domain for workforce development, it's also SEL because it's not only recognizing, for example, different careers, how do you engage with them? Students will go home and talk to family members about what do you do and how, what you do every day and what does that look like? And so there's a lot of SEL components infused in it as well. Great questions, y'all. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. And if anyone wants to share something that you're doing in your school or district, we'd love to hear about it. Anything coming to mind before I go on and share some more
Carol,
things?
I have
Yes,
one more for you.
please.
Are classroom teachers ever involved in helping with the delivery of career lessons? That's a great question.
That's a great question. Yes, they are. In fact, when the counselor goes in, they are co-facilitators with the teacher. And so the teachers will be engaged in the lessons with the counselor. Now, the counselor is the primary holder of the curriculum and the lesson and comes in, and they are certainly the lead, but the teachers will co-facilitate and work with the counselors in the lessons as well. And the teacher feedback has been positive too, that they really like the lessons a lot. Bobby, did you want to briefly comment on your experience working with your teachers?
Oh, yes, you actually answered that question very well. I love the fact that the teachers are there and then they do help because sometimes when they are delivering a lesson, it has happened a lot, especially in third grade. So when a word comes out, they're like, oh, remember when we were talking about this? And then it connects it to their lesson too. So, and also I have teachers who actually, when I'm doing the worksheets with the students, they also want to do it too. So which is great. So you can see that, and they can see that you are a unity, and the fact that they are there is amazing, and they're always there to either answer a question or support. Let's say if I'm working with a small group, the teacher will go to a different group just to provide that support.
And we have a comment from Liz. We do a career fair annually during the school day.
Wonderful.
Liz, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, or you just wanted us to know that.
Yes, we do that. We're a 6 through 8 building in Bristol, and we have guests come in. Parents are able to submit a Google form, and then the kids sign up for the different careers they want to hear about.
That's awesome. Thank
That
you for doing that.
that's fantastic.
And then we have a question from Kathy. Kathy is asking for middle and high school delivery. Are student success plans a part of this? Does that remain a priority? So, Carol, I'm going to
Excellent
let you go
question.
first, and then I can let you know from the state side how that is a priority.
Great question. So our student success plans are separate and apart from our written curriculums. So we do house and keep them differently than this. However, the work that we do in our post-secondary planning in the high school and grade 6 to 12 certainly all merge together in terms of everything pointing to that student success plan.
That's great. And it definitely is a priority, Kathy, for the State Department, 6 through 12, for sure. And then we have another question. Any data that shows counselors implementing lessons one times a month has an impact on career trajectory?
That's a great question. So the
Great
reason why
question.
we started with social emotional learning in 6th grade, and we phased everything in over each year. So that's important to know. We didn't just start with 3 grades at a time. We started with 6th grade SEL. Then the next year we added 7th, and the next year we added 8th. We started in 6th grade SEL because we saw through our panorama survey data that our sense of belonging was not where we wanted it to be. And so we said, how can we help support a sense of belonging? When the counselors wrote the school counselor curriculum for 6th grade that year in the spring, after having had the curriculum implemented from September to March, and they took the survey in March, our sense of belonging went up in our panorama survey data. So of course, course, I certainly had to claim that for the school counselors and their work. And so, yes, we've seen a direct connection to that data. And that's when I talked about on the first slide, how do we, which data point do we start from? What do we want to explore? I think that's a really good example of a place that we wanted to start to really support our students in that area of what was once struggle. Y'all have wonderful questions. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing. And please continue to do so. So I'm going to go on to the next, unless anyone has any thing they'd like to talk about relative to the curriculum. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, as per our school counseling comprehensive framework, is the large group school-wide activities and initiatives. We know K to 12 that all of our schools have different resources through our school-based budgeting in terms of what our building leadership will, in support, bring into the schools and programmings. You might see things like Second Step, Beautiful Me, Kindness Counts, PBIS, Move This World, Wingman, etc. There are so many programs out there that help support our work that many of us as counselors are engaged in. So think of, as we broaden from our tier 1 school counselor curriculum in the classroom, think about our large school scale activities such as those. One of the things that was developed last year is I created our school counselor and college and career specialist newsletters. And in the beginning, it was really about getting school counselors the information that they need to help support their work and build that capacity. Well, it's really in year 2 turned into something very much more than. So I wanted to share the newsletters with you. So we have newsletters for our school counselors, a newsletter that comes out either once or twice a month from myself, from my office. And we have one for K to 8 called the School Counseling Corner, because I do love a good alliteration. We also have our newsletter in high school called the Guidance Gazette, 9 to 12. And so I wanted to share with you, the purpose of these newsletters is not only to provide the school counselors K to 12 with resources, it is written in a way that they are able to copy and paste and turnkey the information to their students and to their families. No longer do they have to sit in their office and think about how to put something together or how do I get this out. It's an absolute turnkey engagement that is ready for them to use. And it also is something that they are able to store electronically because they get them once a month or twice a month. They also can store them in a binder. And so it's a really great tool that they can go back to. So for example, if in September, if I have a section talking about working papers at the high school and how in Norwalk do we get our working papers, they might not get that question until November or December. They're able to go back to their resources and tools to see, okay, this is what I can do for working papers. So I like that whole kind of year component to it, where they have really a deep resource, as I like to call it. So what I wanted to do was I'm clicking on the K to 8 newsletter. Here, actually, I'm going to go to the high school newsletter so that everyone can take a look at the newsletter. Now, there are categories that are here every single month, so school counselors know what to expect in terms of categories. They will see the attendance, attendance category, the 504 category, for example, where all information and postings and come out. Almost everything in this newsletter is linked to a website or to a resource. So they're able, when it's published and they receive it electronically, they can click on it. So for example, they can click on their school counselor directory and have all of the information of our team right at their fingertips. We have our 504 section, our attendance section, and we have 2 college and career specialists. So they have their career center corner information as well. We talk about FAFSA. We talk about, course selection. And this newsletter is similar to K to 8, but of course, different section for grade bands and levels. But what I wanted to point out is we have a faculty, family, scholar, and school counselor resource repository. So they're always getting these great resources that are always a click away at their fingertips as well. So we have information, for example, in this particular, this is our February newsletter for the high school counselors, our high school career pathway systems, our mental health supports areas, our moment in time studies, which I'm sure that everyone is familiar with, our portrait of a graduate information. And so you're going to have these resources. You'll have the time after our meeting today to go through these, but I wanted to just show you what it looks like. We talk about our data and our internship availabilities, our practicum student availabilities, and also our school counselor openings. So it has something for everyone. We also have a workforce development section in each newsletter as well, as you can see as we scroll down of all the events for workforce development. And so I wanted to show you that this is a tool and a resource that is something, if you chose to do a newsletter out of your office for your families and students, this could be something that you could decide to start in the spring. You can start anytime. You don't have to wait for the beginning of the year. But it's been really a transformative tool. And I didn't know if Fabi wanted to speak a little bit about the K-8 school counseling corner.
For that, I would say for us as school counselors, are great resources because it keeps us updated with the things that are going around and also keep us as a reminder of some of the things that we need to keep in mind that are going to happen soon or are going to be due soon. But and also I do also monthly school council newsletters for the parents. So sometimes I'm like, oh, this reminds me of something that I need to include. Like for fifth graders, we had in Norwalk what is called a choice, elementary choice, where they have to apply. They have the options to apply to any middle school that they want to go to, not just to the feeder school that which we normally used to do before. And then just to keep that as a reminder to the parents from September to December, you have the opportunities to apply for this. These are the resources that we have in place for all of the families. Like when it comes to, like, I just saw Mid Fairfield, which is one of our greatest partnership. And for me, I think is as a blessing both ways when it comes to reminder and also to help me keep on the loop or things, how things are changing, what things are coming up soon, what are special dates that we need to be on top of.
Thank you, Fabi. And so that is something that we can really do for our family engagement, our team engagement, and it's a resource that the school counselors really are using in some great ways, and is really helping them do the work that they already do and just providing that support and resources that they can tap into. And then we move on to our fair, just access and inclusion policies and practice for students and families. And we do things like book clubs. We have equity teams. We have 21 schools in total, K to 12. We do mindset work, relationship building, and RISE data hubs. So those are some other areas that we can think about the context of large group school-wide activities that we form our teams and our committees that help support that through the drivers of data. And this was just one last snapshot of the newsletters, so you could see them a little bit larger, but again, you'll have them at your fingertips. And you'll see throughout the newsletters my love for alliterations, because anywhere I can have an alliteration, I absolutely do. Anything coming to mind about the newsletters, student and family engagement that you'd like to share about your own practices, or maybe something you're thinking about doing?
Carol,
Yes.
so we're talking about funding for s'mores. Are you aware of any other free platforms? So this is not a free platform?
This is a very low cost monthly platform. It is not free. And it is very, very low cost. So one of the things that I do is I speak with our director of grant funding to see if I don't have a budget in my particular work, but to see if there's any availability to fund things like this, to be able to use this once a month. I think it's maybe $10 a month or less. I can tell you it's really worth it, but there are other free platforms out there. So don't feel like you have to use SMORE. You can use any platform you want, because it's really about the engagement of us as school school counselors, and it's our collaboration and it's our teaming. And so whatever free platform you can use is going to absolutely support what you're doing and how you're driving all of that communication and collaboration.
Yeah, and in the chat also, Isabel also talked about Canva. It's not really user friendly for newsletters, but Emily also added, I believe s'mores can be for free. There's just a limited amount of how many you can actually send out. So that's actually just to get you started.
Yes.
Is not a bad idea. And then Jess just put into the chat, just curious to counselors at Norwalk provide any of the counseling services hours for 504s and IEPs.
That's a great question. Every district is absolutely different in terms of district need and protocols that we are assigned as school counselors. So what I will tell you in Norwalk Public Schools, K to 12, our school counselors are our 504 case managers. Sometimes they are assigned individual counseling through a 504 plan. They do not provide any IEP documented hours of service through the IEPs. That is left to our special education teachers and managers. And so really for our purposes as school counselors, we are in the 504 lane within our district. Great question. Anything else coming up? And great. And thank you all for sharing the newsletter ideas. And because that's a great point, is that the platform is just the vehicle we're going to drive in, but you can choose any one of, one that works best for you, one that you like using, and also free is great too. So I'm going to pivot now to the next part is our universal assessments and the use of data that we've touched upon. So academic, attendance, and disciplinary data. For us, we have what's called a scholar meeting tracker data that I'd like to share with you, and our school counselor use of time. So with the school counselor use of time, that can be found on page 69 in our Connecticut School Counseling Framework Guide. And it's a really good way to see where we use our time the most. I recall when I was a high school counselor in Norwalk, our director at the time used to share a use of time electronically with us. And I remember learning about myself and my own practice that I was spending a lot of time with my students' families, emails, phone calls, meetings, and Zoom meetings. And I could see how it was really skewing toward parent. And I had to come more back and look at my own practice and come back to student so that I was ensuring that that student's needs were being met. And so that use of time, you can do it digitally or you could do it in hard copy on paper. But just track your time for a week if you haven't done so and kind of see where that time is going. I was a former pre-K to 8th school counselor in Bridgeport, and I tracked my time on my calendar. So every single appointment, every single thing, and then I can look back at my calendar. And I've been doing that for years. I do it now as well. So we can see where my time goes to just based on my calendar, but it's a nice tool. So if you haven't done it in a while, take a look and see where you are. And if you haven't used it yet, track a week and see what that looks like, because that data is feedback for you in your own work and practice. So for academic attendance and disciplinary data, we have teams at both at the school levels, our 21 schools, and also at the district level. For example, I'm on the attendance team. I'm one of the team members at the district, and we work with 21 schools. Attendance teams go out, support them, the work that they do, provide strategies. And so, really a good place for data is, I'm sure many of you are on different teams within your schools, is to really look at the data on those particular teams to help the work drivers that you're working on. One of the things I wanted to point out that we implemented in Norwalk Public Schools over a phase-in is we do what's called a scholar meeting tracker, and it's for grades 8 to 12. And what we do is there is a system that I set up for the school counselors at the beginning of each year, and I put their caseloads into it's a Google sheet that is shared with myself and their building leadership. We know school counselors will meet with their students 15, 20 times a year. But what we ask of the school counselors is to capture 3 of the meetings, because we want to look at the data in terms of the student needs. What are your students coming to you about and what are their needs? So for example, this is just a sample. The names here are names of people from sitcoms. So this is not a real student data. So I wanted to point that out, that that would be a little fun for us who love the 80s. And anyway, so we look at the first column, and this is not, real data, but this is the data that the type of data that the school counselors use. And so we have a drop down menu for them, and they're able to pick from about 15 items, and they're able to choose what they've met with for the student. The first meeting, I only color code it so that they know which column they're in. The colors are not reflective of their work with the student. And so you'll see the first meeting. So Mike Brady, so he met with the school counselor on 11/8, right, for 504 individual counseling, and hasn't had the second and third meeting yet. There's been an academic support meeting for Nell, and then she had a schedule support meeting, and then across she had a post-secondary planning meeting. What we do is I tabulate the data at the end of each chunk of time. So for example, the first column is going to be from August to November. And then I look at all the data. When we see the data, we're able to see the supports that students need, and also, very importantly, the supports that counselors need. So for example, a few years ago, we saw an uptick in substance use within our high school trackers, 9 to 12. We were able to use what's it called? We're able to use funding, I should say. We're able to use grant funding. That's the word I was looking for. We're able to use grant funding, and we were able to bring in a substance counselor for the high schools. And so that not only supported the students' needs for substance groups and substance meetings, but it supported the needs of our school counselors who were seeing an uptick in this particular data area. And so that's what this is used for, to help support the counselors and the students with their needs. Are there any, and again, I had said we're doing grades 8 to 12, so we're able to monitor that data. Are there any questions about this particular programming that we do for our students and counselors? Anything coming to mind? It's important to note that the only thing the counselors do is they just simply put in the date they met with the student and they do the drop down. There's no narrative, there's no notes, there's no duplicative work. This is what they're already doing. They're just indicating the data of the student need. And so this is all done for them. And what's nice is that we all see it in real time. The school counselor sees it in real time, building leadership, myself, in real time, so we can provide that support. We don't wait till the end of the year and say, oh, I saw that your need in October was. We're looking at all times so we can provide those needs as we go.
Carol, this is a question. In addition to logging, is there something like Naviance or PowerSchool?
Great question. We also use PowerSchool. School counselors are expected K to 12 to log everything in PowerSchool because that's a holistic view that is year over year data as to the interventions and the things that the students and families have received. It enables us to look at a particular student's log entries, as we know, to see what's been tried, what's working, and also what's not working, and how do we need to pivot, and what else can we bring in, and what can we do. So we do also use PowerSchool, and that's why I've made this such a simple non-lift for the counselors, just simply the date and the drop down. They open it when they go in every single day, and it's just there because when they meet with their kiddos, they're able to go ahead and mark it there in real time. And so it's something that they have open throughout the day, just like we have PowerSchool open as well. Great question.
Another question from Kathy, is this regular practice or intervals when you want just a snapshot?
This is regular practice in terms of counselors have this all year, every day. So I'm looking and monitoring, I'm looking for trends. I'm looking for support needs. I'm looking for areas of support for students and staff constantly, but I will take the snapshot. Great question. For example, from August to November, I will then snapshot November's data. And then I'll have an ability to report that to the board in terms of what the needs are for students and counselors and how we can help support. So I will do snapshots. So then we'll have like November to February, and then we'll have February to May. And so there are those snapshot moments, but I'm consistently monitoring this.
And Joanna, I just want to go back to Joanna's question. And I think the reason why she asked that question regarding Power School and Naviance and then this program, entering data is time consuming, right, for counselors. So maybe talk a little bit more about that and the approach so that, time is of the essence and time is valuable. So can you talk a little bit more about that for school counselors?
Absolutely. I know that as a school counselor, when I was always logging everything, and I even log everything now in my role as well, for students and families. And when I am doing my logs, I used to have a little notebook next to me of all the kiddos I'd met with for the day and make a note as to what I met. And then I would take 10 minutes at the end of the day and do all of my log entries for that day, or I would do them possibly the next day or the day after. I would always do them, make sure the date was accurate. But I did it with fidelity because I found that when it came time to provide interventions or to bring them forward for a committee or recommendation, I had the information at my fingertips to say, these are the needs, this is what we've done, and this is really where we want to pivot to next. So I really tried to make it, and I did make it a part of my daily practice because we are all about efficiency. We are extreme multitaskers, and we're always going 100 miles an hour in the left lane, right? And so always carving out that time each day is something that I would do in my particular practice. Relative to the tracker for 8 to 12, again, the first iteration of this had more information. It is absolutely drilled down to just the date and just the drop down menu. The counselors appreciate the supports that it provides, and they see the benefit to sharing that data because it's able to support the students and the counselors as well. And so we do use Naviance. We use Naviance in the high schools for post-secondary planning, things like our interest inventories, and then of course, exclusively senior year, when it comes to post-secondary planning.
I also think it's really important, Joanna, is that this is really good real-time data. And sometimes your administrators may not see that there is a trend or an issue that is arising. And this is trying to get ahead of that rather than focusing on tier three supports where we're sort of have the upside down triangle and we function in like crisis mode. This is more of a preventative early intervention model so that you can actually be able to determine what are some of the trends that are happening within the context of your school, because it could be different at each school. And the other thing is that now you have data, rich data to share with administration to say that we need to address this on a larger scale. And how do we do that? And sometimes that does come into like funding it, as Carol has mentioned earlier. Jess, it sounds like Norwalk has a robust program and has learned how to balance all the demands. I would love to talk to one of the counselors who work in the middle school level to see how I can continue to grow my program by learning from you. Would anyone be willing to connect at a later date so I can ask more tailored questions?
I would love that. Yes, we will get you connected to a middle school counselor, and thank you for your partnership. That's wonderful. That's terrific. Happy to.
And then we have, thank you for this opportunity. I have to head, have to head to another meeting, but we'll be sure to join the next session. Thank you. And Jess
Wonderful.
also said thank you.
Wonderful. I just in very brief, very quick closing. I know we have just a few minutes left, and thank you so much for being with us today. I am going to send out an email to all of you, a calendar invitation. It is absolutely optional. If you'd like to join, it'll be for once a month, and you're welcome to pop in like office hours. Pop in and talk about any need that you may have, anything that you're working on. If you want to develop a system, need support, coaching, anything that you can think of, I am happy to partner and collaborate and work with you. So I'll be sending out that particular invitation that you'll see come across your calendar. So I just wanted to make that available to everyone as well.
Thank you for that. And Craig was gracious enough to actually put the Google Drive folder in the chat for you as well. And Denise, this is really helpful. Thank you. And so, we have 2 minutes left. So any other questions? And I just want to let you know that we are looking forward to you joining us in the next session on April 1st. So if there's any other questions, feel free to unmute or just put it in the chat. Jess, so organized and helpful for school counselors. Thank you for all that you do. Very nice, Jess. Well, I just want to say thank you as well for all that you do. And I'm hoping that this information helps. Feel free to follow up and ask questions. Carol is a wealth of knowledge, but also she has opened herself up for more questions and involvement as far as providing technical assistance and coaching. So feel free to use her. She's a great resource.
Thank you. And I know someone wanted to get connected. Please be sure once I send you that invitation to email me directly so that I can get you connected to the school counselor in middle school.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate you, and have a wonderful day and the rest of the week. And we'll see you April 1st. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you.